Rise, brother, rise, the wakening skies pray to the morning lit. The windlass sleeps in the arms of the dawn like a child that has cried all night. Come, let us gather our nets from the shore and set our catamarans free. From the verses of the poem Coromandel Fishers, I wholeheartedly welcome the gathering for the endowment lecture on role of extension and advisory services in enabling innovation. The prayer of a righteous man is powerful and effective. So I kindly request everyone to stand up for the Tamil Thai Vault. Thank you, everyone. An innovator in agribusiness management generated the need and interest among farmers on entrepreneurship. He cherished the noble ideas for the society as an investment through his scholars. He's a cordial and warm personality. With these accolades, we are happy to invite Dr. N. Venkatesa Palaniswamy, the Dean Agri TNAU, to offer the welcome address. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Good afternoon to one and all who are participating in this endowment lecture through online and offline. It is my great pleasure to be part of this endowment lecture organized by the Department of Agriculture Extension and Rural Sociology. Thank you for the opportunity given to me as an in-charge dean of today's postgraduate studies. Sir, it is TNA is the pioneering in education, research and extension. In particular, we are taking the students to the exposure way of different exposures, both participatory and inviting the experts in the respective fields for exposing the current scenario of the agriculture and allied sciences in the field of agriculture, for the enabling our students in capabilities and their expertise in their career. So with this, with the great support of our honorable and respected Vice Chancellor Madam, we are free hand to organize a different endowment lecture under the postgraduate studies dean office, in which we give an opportunity for all the department to have an endowment lecture in the respective fields, so that every one of the department as well as the other department people can learn the new things in the respective fields. So in this point of view, Department of Agriculture Extension and Rural Sociology is kind enough to organize this lecture on role of extension and advisory services in short form is in enabling innovations. So in this point of view, you sir, today's guest professor Rashid SULAIMAN sir is a director of the private Center for Research and Innovation and Scientific Policies. Really, he was the former principal scientist in our ICR, and he got volunteer retirement, and he promoted this center, particularly educating the agriculture officers and agriculture scientists and also other stakeholders, in particular farmers, inclusive of farmers. That point of view, really, we are very great, sir. We are very happy and we are very grateful to you for accepting our invitation and come over from Hyderabad to Coimbatore and going to deliver a great lecture on the today's topic. So with this, I am really happy to invite you and also welcoming you, sir. Next, and my friend and director of CARDS, Dr. Suresh Kumar, I welcoming him for facilitating this endowment lecture. He is the instrumental person in innovating the new things in research and education and also extension. So with this, I am welcoming you, director, to going to give a introductory note on this topic as well as the speaker. And also, I thankful to the Professor and Guide for organizing, initiating this role of that is role of extension and advisory services in enabling innovation in the field of agriculture and allied science. Dr. Karthikeyan is always innovator in new technology, adopting in agriculture extension since 1997. I know him. He, in the inception of introduction to me itself, he is applying his extension technology in tank management, and after that he involved in something like that, and sponsored by like that. He is one of the pioneering in bringing innovation in extension education. So really, I'm very thankful to Dr. Karthikeyan for arranging this great lecture, because it's a need of the day. If you see the change in agriculture and also change in technology, we have to bring the new innovations in transfer of technology and also training the farmers so that new ICT tools can be applied in a shorter time. Our developed technology and other things can able to reach the farmers in time, so that farmers can adopt it in a shorter period. In that point, with these few words, I welcoming every one of the scientists, students, and principals and deans of affiliated and constituent colleges, and students of affiliated and constituent colleges and main campus, those who are attending this endowment lecture through online and offline. Every one of you, I'm welcoming you, and please patiently listen and take note of the lecture, and kindly try to incorporate in our research proposals as well as education and extension. So that we have to improve the or doubling the farmers by 2025. Okay, with this introductory remarks, I will request every one of you for providing this opportunity. Thank you, one and all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now, the guests and dignitaries are honored. Could we now request Dr. J. Venkata Prabhu, Agricultural Extension, to give away the memento to Dr. V. Rashid SULAIMAN, Director, Center for Research on Innovation and Science Policy, Hyderabad, as a token of honor. Thank you, sir. Could we now request Dr. M. Nirmala Devi, PG Coordinator, Department of Agricultural Extension and Rural Sociology, TNAU Coimbatore, to present a memento to Dr. N. Venkatesa Palniswamy, the Dean Agri, TNAU, as a token of recognition. Thank you, ma'am. Could we now request Dr. M. Ashokan, Professor, Agricultural Extension, to bestow the memento to Dr. D. Suresh Kumar, Director, CARDS, TNAU, as a token of affection? Thank you, sir. A water economist thirst for research in irrigation modeling. His cascading projects speak volume upon him. A workaholic director, a winsome personality. With these laudatory remarks, we are overwhelmed to invite Dr. D. Suresh Kumar, Director of CARDS TNAU, to deliver the introductory note on the speaker.
Hello? 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 கேக்குதா?
Sir,
Hello?
sir, it is audible.
இல்ல இல்ல இங்க இல்லையா? ஆமா. சரி இங்க யாரும் இல்லையா?
Hello, hello, hello,
Hello? Hello?
hello.
Sir, it is audible. It is audible. Sir,
Hello.
கேக்குது.
Hello? கேக்குதா?
Sir, it is
Hello.
audible. You are audible. Sir, we hear you, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone. Most distinguished and respected, the chief guest, Dr. Rashid SULAIMAN, my friend, the Dean Agriculture, Dr. Venkatesh Palanisamy, Dr. Karthikeyan, Professor Head Agricultural Extension, former Director Planning and Monitoring, Dr. Venkataprabhu sir, Dr. Ashokan, Dr. Gopal sir, colleagues at COTS, and my dear student friends. Good afternoon once again, and I'm very happy to be here as part of this endowment lecture. Really, I'm very happy, and I feel proud and honored to give you a introductory note of an eminent person in agricultural extension in the country. Of course, I had chance to work with several extension scientists across the country and seen several CVs. I would say this is one of the best CV I have ever seen from agricultural extension discipline. So really, I'm very happy to see you, sir, here. Probably some of you might be knowing that, sir, when Dr. Venkatesh Palanisamy, my friend, was indicating in his welcome address that Dr. Rashid, sir, actually resigned, left the prestigious scientist position in the Agricultural Research Service from ICR and started his own. So that itself shows he's capable of doing research on his own, and that proves that he is actually a best researcher and a social architect and a freelance consultant. Really, we are proud to have you here, sir. On behalf of the Directorate of Course, I once again welcome in joining hands with our Dean, PhD. Yeah, Doctor. Actually, I need minimum 2 days to tell his achievements, kind of thing. But for want of time, I try to indicate some of his key achievements in brief. Dr. Rashid SULAIMAN is currently the director of Center for Research and Innovation and Science and Policy. In brief, it's CRISP. And prior to starting this, he had worked as a senior scientist at NCAP. NCAP is National Center for Agricultural Economics and Policy Research, and now it is called ICR NIAP, National Institute of Agricultural Policy. So that is actually one of the premier institute in India conducting policy-oriented research in agricultural economics and social sciences in general. So here is expertise in agricultural extension system and policy, and has worked on applications of agricultural innovation systems. His research broadly covers the role of private sector in extension, developing new approaches, to reaching rural women and evaluation of ICTs in agriculture. He leads AESA, Agriculture Extension in South Asia Network, and is a member of board of the Global Forum for Rural Advisory Services. So this is the first time I came to know that there is actually a kind of network for agricultural extension in South Asia. So because we know as an economist, we have actually South Asian Network for Development and Environmental Economics, SANDI. That is a very popular network in South Asia that builds capacity building among the young researchers. And I'm very happy to know that he leads ASA. And Dr. Rashid SULAIMAN holds a PhD in agricultural extension from IRA. You know that it is a premier institute in the country. So basically, he has actually 28 years of experience, research experience in agricultural extension, agricultural innovation systems, and program evaluation. So managing and coordinating research programs in South Asia. So that is actually one of the key tasks he performs. And he holds key positions in a number of professional bodies and policy-making bodies, like member in national and international policy think tanks. Major areas of research include agricultural extension systems and policies, application of innovation systems framework in agriculture research and extension, exploring the role of science, technology, and innovations to achieve SDGs, role of private sector and public sector, public-private partnership in agriculture research and extension, developing new approaches to reaching rural women and evaluation of ICTs in agriculture. Currently, he holds most of the prestigious position, like member in Global Forum for Rural Advisory Services, key focal point, AESA, member of the steering committee of FAO, Tropical Agriculture Platform, served as a commissioner, CGAR program, like a commissioner on sustainable agriculture intensification, and served as the chair, steering committee of the Global Forum for Rural Advisory Services. In 2021, he led very, very important thing, so the drafting of the indicator framework for national extension and advisory service systems, metrics for performance and outcome measurement for FAO. And then in 2012, he led the drafting of the new extensionist position paper for GFRAS, and in 2008, he co-authored the South Asia Regional Agriculture Research Strategy document for DFID. DFID is the Department for International Development. That is actually one of the very big international donor development agency working on the growth and development of particularly the developing countries. Okay. So contributed to the development of country program framework, document of Government of India, FAO in 2012-13, and authored one of the key book chapter, Knowledge Generation and Management for the Government of India, FAO National Medium Term Priority Framework in 2008-9. In addition to this, so he actually, as I indicated earlier, he held a key position as a scientist, so the principal scientist in the NCAP and currently the director. Really, we are fortunate enough to have you here, sir, to listen to your, the endowment lecture of the current policy relevance. I sincerely hope that the endowment lecture would largely benefit both the students and faculty across campuses in TNAU. And at this juncture, actually, I would like to appreciate Dr. Karthikeyan in identifying a right person. Okay, he should have taken a lot of efforts and pains in bringing Dr. Rashid SULAIMAN. So he is very busy person, and he is running a important think tank that actually supplies various inputs to the different policy making units in the country and global level. Okay, so in that sense, really I appreciate Dr. Karthikeyan for your efforts. Always the Department of Agricultural Extension is very keen in doing I think really I'm very happy about the progress that is happening in the agricultural extension department. And I also appreciate the faculty members, Ashokan and Nirmala, and particularly the students. So really it's really amazing to see the students' involvement in all the activities. Maybe the driving force, the senior professor like Venkataprabhu sir. Okay. With this, I once again welcome you, sir, for the COTS TNAU Coimbatore for delivering this. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Graduated from the College of Horticulture KU Thrissur, obtained his doctorate from IIR in New Delhi. Close to a decade, he had been working in agricultural extension in South Asia focal point. Put forth 2.5 decades of postdoctoral expertise in research, a stalwart in agricultural innovation systems and rural innovation management, managing and communicating research programs. An able communicator, his advisory services are noteworthy. His policy initiates speak volume upon him. He is a member in steering committee of Global Forum of Rural Advisory Services, a member of FAO Tropical Agricultural Platform, a leading and popular social scientist. His vast experience benefited innumerable number of research scholars to become contagious in research aptitude. With these applauding achievements, we kindly invite Dr. V. Rashid SULAIMAN, Director, Center for Research on Innovation and Science Policy, Hyderabad, to offer an endowment lecture on role of extension and advisory services in enabling innovation. Welcome, sir.
Okay, thank you. How can I see my slide? It's already here, I believe. Can you help me in opening my slide? And I should move this one. It will work. Huh? Okay. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for the invitation to TNAU. Actually, the first time I came here was when I was doing my MSc in Thrissur. So I came for the literature review in the TNAU library. So I think that is the first time I came to TNAU. And after that, no, there are many times I came here. Actually, the topic which I wanted to speak is on extension advisory services in enabling innovation. So we have been hearing about innovation. I think all students in extension have heard about innovation, have studied innovation. But so one might think, what is new in this whole area of innovation? I basically organized my presentation like this because I wanted to talk about why innovation and what we mean by innovation currently, because the term innovation has evolved considerably over the last 5 decades. From 60s, our understanding of innovation in the 60s is different from our understanding of innovation currently. And I also wanted to bring the framework of agricultural innovation system. Then the question is about how do we enable innovation and what is the role of advisory services to enable innovation and what capacities are needed. I also wanted to talk about scaling up because everybody wants innovation and impact currently. Governments, policymakers, donors, everybody wanted innovation and at an impact at a scale. Not about few villages we have covered kind of a thing. We need innovation impact at a scale. So you have the paper, I think the paper has been printed and distributed. So I don't know, maybe you may not have got the time to look into it. My main argument in the paper has been that extension suffers from 2 types of disconnect. One is a contextual disconnect because the problems have changed. When extension was set up in many of the developing countries, it was all about increasing productivity, increasing production. But now we have to deal with a large number of other challenges in the field. So we are not only talking about only increasing productivity, but we need to deal with natural resource management, adaptation to climate change, linking farmers to markets, retaining and attracting and retaining youth in agriculture, new standards. The question is, have our capacities, do we have the capacities, extension have the capacities to deal with these new challenges? That is number one. So that is the kind of a contextual, because the context has changed. When extension was evolved, the context was different, but now we face with a new set of challenges. So that is one thing which we are now talking about. Another is the conceptual kind of a disconnect. Extension is still viewed as a messenger between the research and the kind of a farmers, because the policy also frames the role of extension as an agency which sits between research and farmers. Whereas the contemporary understanding of innovation, how innovation happens, that has all changed. We have a better understanding about how innovation happens. And people talk about interactive relationships among a number of actors. That is how innovation happens. Not through research transferring messages, research transferring knowledge to farmers. So that's the two disconnects which I basically focused, but in this presentation, I just wanted to focus more on the conceptual disconnect between the evolution of innovation as a discipline, as a science, as a new set of practice, than what is contemporarily, what is most of the time we talk about extension about. So the question is, why are we talking about innovation systems? We never heard about innovation or innovation systems. At least I think 10 years before, nobody was talking about innovation. Innovation systems, we need to strengthen innovation. People were talking only about a research strategy. So you can see now the CGIAR is coming with a research and innovation strategy. 10 years before, they were only having a research strategy. Similarly, science, technology, innovation policy. We had only in the 80s, 90s, we had only science and technology policy, S&T policy. Now it is science, technology, and innovation policy. That means the term innovation is getting mainstreamed into science, technology, discussions. It is getting mainstreamed into research and extension organizations for a number of reasons, because one is dealing with complex challenges. Because our challenges, which I said initially about linking farmers to markets, natural resource management, sustainability, or new standards, all of them needs collective action, group action. It is not like individual farmers can solve these kind of things. So you need new frameworks to address this kind of a problem. Another is there is a lot of discontent among the policy makers about the poor performance of research and extension, especially in marginal environments and especially in dealing with complex challenges. So there is a lot of people are now talking about, okay, we need innovation. And innovation systems is important. As I said before, I think this is an important slide because we need to understand how the term innovation has evolved. I think in the 60s, 70s, I think you all know about the diffusion of innovations, the Rogers publication. So they all talk about innovation as a new technology developed by research. Later on, many people like Robert Chambers, you should know all these people you are in a discipline. So they basically talked about, no, farmers also innovate. It's not merely the science that is the source of innovation. So people started talking about farmer innovation. But in all these framings, in the beginning, it was all about extension as an agency that is communicating information on or communicating new knowledge. So that is the role. Later on, many people started talking about new ways of working. Because it's not merely, for instance, even the farmer producer organizations, cooperatives, they're all institutional innovation. There's no technology per se in any of these kind of things. Even a farmer feels cool. So these are all institutional innovations, new ways of working. So in the 80s, there is a lot of people like Niels Rowling, many of them, especially from the Wageningen, they worked on many of these and they said, innovation happens through an interaction. So the role of extension is to facilitate interaction among many of the actors in the agricultural knowledge and information system. There is a concept now, which is talking about research, extension, education thing. But from 2000 onwards, a lot of research has gone into. Now people talk about innovation is not any of those kind of a thing. They talk about innovation as a process of knowledge generation, adaptation, diffusion, and use. So they make a difference between invention and innovation. Invention is what the scientists often do is an invention. But if it has to become an innovation, it has to be adapted, diffused, used by a large number of people, leading to social and economic changes. So this is the new understanding about innovation. So if you look, if you trace the history of these, the whole publications. So 60s we started with the diffusion of innovations. We have the fifth volume, that's a different story. But then people like Robert Chambers came with this kind of the farmer first idea, farmers also innovate, we need to support them. Then the Niels Rawlings publication on extension science. In between, we also need to place the publication by Dr. Vandenban on Vandenban and Hawkins agricultural extension. But then when it comes to the late 90s, so there are publications on wheelbarrows full of frogs. I think these are all about people who looked at innovation from a social learning, from those kind of a theories. And then this Case Lewis publication, Communication for Rural Innovation. So that is basically talking about different types of communication that is needed if you really wanted to facilitate innovation. And then they talk about innovation is something like a shared, that needs a shared learning among multiple stakeholders. They talk about the natural resource management. So where innovation can happen only when you have wide varied of stakeholders have to be brought together. You know about it, many of them, because no, whether it's a participatory irrigation management or watershed management, in many areas, no, you need really multiple stakeholders to be brought together. The same holds for many of our new problems like linking farmers to markets, where it is not a simple adoption by one particular farmer. So the ideas around innovation has changed, and then if you look at the 2000, these are World Bank publication, 2006 Enhancing Agricultural Innovation, 2012 Agricultural Innovation Systems. So these elaborated on the role of research, extension, organizations. I introduced the idea of knowledge brokers, innovation management. So there is a lot that has happened after the diffusion of innovations came into the scene. But unfortunately, there is we have been seeing within extension that there is too much dependency on the diffusion of innovations kind of a paradigm, a typology of adopters, the S curve. We need to learn it, but then we should learn it as a history. But we should not be learning it as something as a solution or as a kind of another framework. So this is the point which I wanted to say. And then I put all these cover images to show you that these are the publications we should have read it, at least at the master's level. PhD is too late to learn any of these kind of things. But then if you have not read, and most of these documents are available online. It is not like, we have to order for a copy or any of this kind of a thing. So there's a lot of information available on the innovation. As I told you, there's a lot of critique on the diffusion of innovation, the Rogers kind of an approach. People have challenged it. People have now dismissed it in many cases, saying that, no, this no longer works. Actually, one paper which all of you should read is this one. This is Rethinking Technological Change in Smallholder Agriculture. I think this is a recent paper. I think this is Dominic Glover. So these are he did a detailed review. If you cannot get the copy, it's published by Outlook on Agriculture. I have the soft copy which I can share with Professor Karthikeyan in the WhatsApp or the email. This is a paper which you should compulsorily read to understand how the idea about innovation has changed and the dangers in using the Rogers diffusion of innovations model to understand technological change. So I think this is something which you should read. So this is the 2019 paper. But actually, in 2002, actually, when I was in NCAP itself, we basically talked about, we need to move beyond technology dissemination. If you really want extension to really to become relevant to the changing, to the contemporary demands, to become relevant, we need to move and we need to look for new theories and frameworks in communication, innovation, and extension. So I think these are because I am going to say, because people talked about user involvement, multiple sources of innovation. There's a paper in 1990 by Stephen Biggs, which talks about multiple sources of innovation. It is not merely the research knowledge is not the only source of innovation. They talk about different types of knowledge, not merely technical knowledge. I think the social, the kind of the knowledge about the society, the knowledge about the policies. So different pieces of knowledge have to be put together if you really wanted to have innovation. So only focusing on, so many people even believe that technology is a starting point for innovation. No, technology is not always a starting point at certain points. So we need to challenge our own assumptions about how technical change happens. And if you don't understand these kind of new thinking, new theories, I think, and especially if you're having an MSc and a PhD, people expect us to know many of these kind of things. So I think this is something which you should focus. And if you have not read it, you should read this paper, because this first paper with the Dominic Glover paper is a real good review on what all things have happened since the diffusion of innovation things. So now people are talking everywhere, talking about agricultural innovation systems. Even the ICR, the National Agricultural Innovations Program, NAIP, was also basically built around some of these ideas, because if innovation has to happen, people really, there's no point in only strengthening the research system or an extension system, because traditionally we have an NARP, National Agriculture Research Project, we have a National Agriculture Extension Project. Now people believe that unless the whole system is upgraded, you cannot have innovation. These have all come from studies. It's not theory. These have all come from studies which have looked into different sectors in different countries and come up with these kind of frameworks. That means extension sits in the middle. They are part of the bridging organization, where there are many people, players, public, private, civil society. So we are part of the, so where extension fits in the agricultural innovation system, because we are a bridging organization, not merely between the research and farmers. Because even today, sometimes we depict extension as something between research and farmer, but then we are now talking about extension playing a role of connecting, bridging relationships, facilitating knowledge flows among these very different actors. So if you don't understand this innovation system, which I will explain in a bit later with an example. So the new understanding is innovation is a process. This can be facilitated. It needs interactions among these large number of people. In many cases, these organizations in these different boxes don't speak to each other. And that is why we don't have the required competence. So people have studied in different countries. So why one country is very good? For instance, a simple example is if you look at the plywood. I think all these tables in this room, I think these all might have come from either Thailand. Right, but we might have purchased it here, but it might have come from Thailand, Indonesia, Sri Lanka. It is the Damro. It is not because we don't have any wood scientists or we don't have carpenters, but they have a system in place that can produce the same size materials which can be screwed here. You come here and then you screw and put it in place. And they have also a system to transport it, ship it to these different countries and still make a profit. But here we cannot afford to do it. The same thing with I think when this whole innovation system studies have also emerged from the industrial sector. Japanese, the Koreans, and we see all these, Suzuki, the Kia, they are dominating the whole car market. Because they know they are not doing a lot of research on automobile or maybe any engineering. US might be doing, but then they don't have any car that basically runs on the road. So some companies, some organizations are able to do things better, and why others are not able to do it better. So people studied these kind of things, and they realized that innovation is a process, and innovation happens only when different pieces of knowledge, because somebody might be having a knowledge about tires, somebody might be having a knowledge about fluid dynamics, somebody might have a knowledge about maybe ergonomics, maybe the seating arrangement, somebody might have a knowledge about maybe efficiencies. So if only when you put all these kind of things together, then only your competence as a sector, your competence will be there. And there are several publications which are talking about, for instance, the new extension is written in 2012. It basically articulated what is the role of extension within the agricultural innovation system and what new capacities are needed. Because our existing capacities are not enough to deal with the new challenge, newer programs. So the other publications, I am basically giving the cover images. The references are all there in the documents which I have in the paper. So these are all documents which we should be aware about, and we should be reading this kind of a thing, and we should be able to comment on it. And then I told about invention is always not necessary for innovation to happen. Technical knowledge is not the starting point for innovation to happen. With the existing knowledge, a lot could be done in terms of reorganizing the different things and transferring invention. This is something which we have been trying to do in extension. So this is not enough because there are so many other kind of things also needs to be done simultaneously. And people also, people also talk about that innovation is not a post-research task. Like, okay, people do research, then after that we go there and then take it to the last mile. No. Research also has a place to play in innovation to happen, because there's a lot of technological adaptation happens when it is being scaled up, when it goes to the other regions. So we need to have a rounded understanding of innovation. And the topic here is that this process can be managed and facilitated. And then extension can play a major role in it, provided we acquire the kind of a capacities on how do we enable innovation. So this is the same picture which I just repeated, just to make the same point. A lot of organizations are here, but many times the efficiency of the system is because how these different actors in an innovation system. So you can take any example. For example, this is maybe I can give an example of a horticulture sector. This is a case study which we did a few years back on even organizations. If you take so why we don't have a kind of a competence in horticulture? India produces a large number. In terms of production, we might be big in many things, but when it comes to export competitiveness, there are many reasons why we are not in a position to do it, because for innovation to happen, many of these organizations should work together. Dealing with, it's like a jigsaw puzzle. So everybody brings a different set of knowledge, try to put it together. If it doesn't happen, and most of the time it doesn't happen for a number of reasons, so which we studied in terms of why organizations are not in a position to work together. So this applies to any sector. If you take, we work on the sugar sector, you take any, we did on the spices, many sectors. Collaboration doesn't happen. Even public partnerships are difficult. Then forget about the private partnerships. So I think these are the kind of problems which people. And why everybody is concerned about innovation? Because everybody feels that we are not getting the returns from the investment made in many of these different organizations, commodity boards, research organizations, educational institutions. Everybody is trying to do whatever they are able to do, but there is no proper mechanisms to exchange, combine knowledge. And there's limited scaling up, because everybody is now talking about scaling up, and they are looking for people who can scale up. I will just show you later on when coming to that. So we don't get the innovation and impact at a scale. So if you look at the Niti Aayog documents or planning commission, the documents, they all talk about, okay, business as usual doesn't work anymore, but then people are struggling. And what is the next business model? How can we really strengthen all these arrangements so that we have a better innovation that comes? And these are the definition of innovation system, because we are now talking about innovation system. It is not about a new technology developed. So it's a network of actors, organizations, individuals, so working together. But then we also need to recognize the policies and institutional arrangement. This is the difference when we learned about the agricultural knowledge and information system, ICTs, which came up in the 1980s, and the innovation system is that it recognizes the role of multiple actors beyond research, extension, education, farmer. 4, it talks about the private industry, it talks about the consortiums, it talks about the policies, the rules, the regulations. So we need to, and because you don't have the right policies in place, the right institutions in place, institutions as ways of behavior, not as organizations. So then if you don't have these kind of things, then innovation is not happening. So one of the tools which we have been using in the agricultural innovation system studies is to do a innovation systems diagnosis. Who is who in the agricultural innovation system? You take any sector, maybe any study, unless we understand who is who in the whole system, there's no point in trying to improve only one of the organizations. Because even if you improve the efficiency of one organization, as long as the relationships are very weak, then you don't get the performance, because it's a 1 + 1 +. No, if you don't, only one organization is being strengthened is not going, because it's all interactions among multiple stakeholders. So we need to understand who are the actors, what is the pattern of interaction? Is it only, they meet only during a conference, people will come together, or They may meet maybe when the minister is in town, when it comes to the, then I think all the different stakeholders come, have tea and go away. Or are they really working together? Raising resources together, trying to address the problems together, evaluating the programs together. And then what are the policies, the enabling, what constrain these innovation to happen? Several studies which we did are all there in the CRISP website. So if you look at it, so we have where we applied the innovation systems framework to understand this, the whole agriculture innovation system. And what constrain innovation? I think this is maybe common sense in a sense, but many people know about it. But then when the studies have shown that, like the mandate, narrow organizational mandate, I think when we have been talking to the extension organizations in different, because everybody now wanted nutrition to be addressed by extension. See, nutrition is an issue traditionally addressed by the health or the women and child development departments. But then nutrition sensitive agriculture, who will talk about who will promote nutrition sensitive agriculture? So then the extension organizations have to play a major role. But when you talk to the these organizations, they will say we don't have any mandate on extension nutrition, and we don't know anything about it, and we are not. Our capacities are also not being built up. So some organizations will say, no, our role, we only produce. We develop machinery, we put it in the museum, we put it in the shelves, and then we do not know then extension is weak. You can blame extension is weak, or farmers are not interested, or private industry wanted everything free. These are the usual kind of reasons which we. But how long we can play with this kind of a thing? So unless the mandates. So we need to have a relook at the mandates. Funding, every organization funded independently. That's what I said about CSIR funded separately from the ICR, maybe on a common area where both could really work together. They don't really work together. So nutrition, National Institute of Nutrition. So you have the other home science colleges. There is a lot they can give and take, but they are funded and evaluated separately, and limited involvement of other stakeholders in the governance. I told in the morning also, because we don't want the industry partners to sit in our research advisory committee or even in the extension advisory council. We will try to get a farmer who don't really challenge us. So we are not, so governance is an issue. Hierarchies are top down. There is no success story syndrome. Nobody wanted to talk about failures and learning from failures. Why things didn't happen and can we do something differently? So these are all which are very common in many of the public sector organizations. Then this mistrust, public, private, civil society. Public sector people, many people think, I also told in the morning, that private sector people, because they are there, because they haven't got a government job. So many people believe like that. And private people think that, no, because these people are so inefficient, they have no sense of time. But there's a lot of mistrust. It is not 100% true that all these kind of things. In a sense, this whole NAIP, this National Agriculture Innovation Program, was basically brought where they put a condition that, no, if you are in a value chain project, you should have multiple actors. Otherwise, the program will not be funded. So many of the challenge funds, many of them are now trying to competitive research grants. So they are trying to make sure that no single PI, one specific expertise funded are not promoted. They don't accept it for funding unless it is a consortia with maybe the industry, farmer organization, and then you have to really indicate the impact pathway. Otherwise, the research proposals are not being accepted. It's not like, no, we developed and then we finally the output is a paper and then the matter ends there. Then capacity, lack of the soft skills, functional skills is an issue. But capacity is to collaborate, capacity to manage relationships. I think address the issues related to the mistrust, negotiation. So there's a lot of skills that are needed, especially when you go to the top. You need more, especially you need a more, these kind of capacities are, thank you. These capacities are important when you, especially when you go to the top hierarchy. But then there is no mechanism to train people in these areas. Lack of exposure, secondment. Secondment is common in outside countries. People from the private sector can come and work in the public sector 5 years, then you can go. People can go and work in the private sector. So this kind of a cross learning, so this is not happening. And this whole research extension, pharma, this is a linear paradigm. Whereas we have been talking about systems paradigm for the last 2 decades, maybe more than that, for the last 3 decades. But the innovation systems ideas, came in maybe the last 2 decades. And the policy, there's no policy in terms of bringing all the coherence among all these different actors. So in many of our research, we found that, so we looked at cases where, successful cases where there is an impact at a scale happen. So try to understand what are the functions, actions, and tools that are needed to achieve innovation and impact. So if you, I think you have a reference on the whole innovation management paper, which we did, to understand how innovation really happens. So we found that different actors are involved and different actors perform many of these different functions. So innovation management itself is becoming a major kind of an area. So, and then it is something like, you did the business case. Now, how the whole, in the MBAs, all these programs, you have a large number of business cases. But unfortunately, we don't have too many business cases. We don't have enough cases, teaching cases in extension, in general, in social sciences. We are, especially in agriculture, we are very weak. So we looked at different cases and we found that you need to perform a large number of other functions. Transferring technology can only help if other functions are also being performed by different organizations. So the role of extension has broadened, and then we have a much better understanding about the knowledge being held by different types of actors in an innovation system. And this is how innovation and impact will happen. So people have started talking about, we need to have maybe more new business models are required. Maybe in like innovation platforms. Agribusiness incubation is only one part of it, but value chain consortiums, joint project, stakeholder councils, funding of research by other organizations. So people are now trying to do all these kind of things so that we reform our existing, or maybe we change the status quo so that now we can do better. So these ideas related to agricultural innovation systems, innovation platforms, so these are the new capacities which we need if we really get into the jobs which we really deserve. But otherwise, as I said in the morning, we'll be only looking at the public sector, we'll be only looking at KVKs as SMS or maybe as an assistant professor kind of a thing. So we need to broaden. See, we can broaden our vision only if we start reading and understanding many of these briefs and publications. So this is we used and applied this innovation management function. So this is a paper which we did for FAO on how do you upscale climate smart agriculture and what is the role of extension advisory services. So this is a review. This is only done by we did a review of 4 cases, and this was done only through literature review. So I think these are the cases in conservation agriculture in Zambia, which has reached millions of hectares. I think the SRI in the sustainable rice intensification in Vietnam, several years. So we could look, and then the other is this drought tolerant maize in Africa, which has CIMIT was behind it, but then it has gone to about 8. I think the whole the sub-Saharan Africa is on maize, so it has gone to about 12, 15 countries spread widely. Another is this whole climate insurance in. So we looked at these reports, studies on these things, and looked at what the different organizations played, what roles they played using this innovation management framework, and come up with a publication on what is the role of extension advisory service in promoting, in upscaling climate smart agriculture. As I said, upscaling climate smart agriculture is not agronomy. It is extension actually. Now we need to use that, findings from agronomy, all those kind of things. But then we need to be very clear that upscaling happens. We need to do things differently, and we need to use new kind of a framework. So what does it all mean? Whatever I said about the expanding role of innovation, our understanding has moved. We have now new frameworks like innovation management, innovation knowledge brokering. So there's a lot of new ideas have come, and the point is, unless we learn about these things, I think we don't have a real future. We will become easily irrelevant in the coming days if we don't really change, or maybe fundamentally revisit our basic foundations of the discipline. Otherwise, we have a very bleak future. So people now talk about extension should be about facilitating change, facilitation for development. So this is a skill which was identified by the GFRAS globally. We did a kind of consultations, and people said our people don't know how to facilitate. Facilitation happens at 2 levels. Facilitation at the ground level, where we work with the farmers, but then facilitation is also at the higher level, in terms of multidisciplinary groupings, interinstitutional projects. It also happens at the policy level in terms of multi-stakeholder working groups. See, Government of India have many kind of a consultation mechanisms, and many times in a way we do not know how to be a kind of how to lead these, how to facilitate these kind of a thing. So the role of extension has changed. It is now becoming a more of an intermediary, making many-to-many relationship with the different actors. It's no longer about only research, extension kind of a farmer. And I think if you look at the training module on facilitation for development, this is something which Chris did with IRI, because the government of Orissa realized that we don't have a training of trainers module on this kind of a topic. So we need to, this is to train agriculture extension officers of the department. So we need to work on these kind of areas. And then we need to learn, and that is also one of the reasons that a new course was introduced in the ICR subject matter BSMA called Enabling Innovation, because in the last, though agricultural innovation systems has been there for the last 20 years, we didn't include these kind of emerging ideas around innovation into the curricula. So this is the reason. So this new course, which is talking about agricultural innovation systems, enabling innovation and scaling up, I would say, these are the areas which we should basically, you need to strengthen your understanding in this particular area. And another area is, because we also need to know about the tools and approaches to enable innovation. A lot of work happened on the whole innovation platforms, because people are struggling how to make, because governments have invested in a lot of organizations, but then how to make them to work together. So innovation platforms. So these are many of the CDR centers have been trying to do it. Many governments have been trying to set up policy working groups, innovation platforms. So what roles we will play in all these kind of things. So we are being invited. So we need to play a role. Can we facilitate these kind of interactions? Do we have the skills? Or is there anybody else who can do it better? In most cases, no. But then we are neither there nor here, because our capacities are limited. We have not basically, improved. Another is now I talked about the whole innovation platform. So there's a brief which I showed you earlier, because how do you promote innovation platforms? So there's a lot of literature why we need to create innovation platforms. I think in our projects also we try to do maybe one project in Pondicherry where we try to create an innovation platform, where we try doing a project on fodder. See, the fodder is a major problem in all over India. But because in the fodder it falls through the gaps between, is it an animal husbandry problem or is it a Department of Agriculture problem? Who should produce fodder? And is it a milk societies kind of a problem? So how can we bring all these different people if you have to address the issue of green fodder? So this is a major kind of a challenge that is constraining, I think, livestock productivity. So if you have to address these kind of a problems, you need to have different people from the different organizations coming, talking, reviewing the progress, finding out new ways of doing these kind of things. And I don't want to go into the because it can be set up at different levels, national platforms. We did a work with the NDDB and set up a fodder innovation policy working group. And finally, the stakeholders decided that, okay, it should be the NDDB should lead it, because they have the more respect. They can command, they can get people to come together. But in some places, like in the Pondicherry, they said it is the river, the earlier Dagokovas, the Rajiv Gandhi College of Veterinary and Animals. They should basically lead the. But then, so people should be able to, but then it needs to be facilitated. It's not like having a meeting, proceedings are being mailed, then the matter ends there, because these are all dynamic mechanisms to address specific problem. And these are areas where we have a comparative advantage if you really study, if you really understand these aspects very well. Another is this, I told about this whole identifying stakeholders. So now there are mechanisms, even there are a lot of public, how do you identify the different stakeholders and how do we engage stakeholders? So these are areas which we should know, because it's always easy to say, you form a committee, get the different stakeholders. Are all stakeholders interested? How to buy in, how to get a buy-in from the different stakeholders to come and address specific kind of problems. And then this whole stakeholder participation in the the governance mechanisms, governance board of organization, whether it's a research or extension. So are you only looking for people who are comfortable, who don't want to challenge our existence? I think this is what most of the time we have been also seeing, the quinquennial review teams, they only select people who don't really make a major hue and cry so that the status quo could be maintained. So I think if you really wanted to improve, can we change some of these aspects? This policy working group, I basically already talked about it, needs skilled facilitators. So if you, facilitation as I said is a skill, there is a possibility to market that specific skill if you really work together, because you need, basically the world needs people who can do these kind of a thing. So the related concept is the scaling up. Now everybody is about scaling up. No, nobody is talking about adoption. People are not talking about diffusion. People wanted to know whether you know anything about scaling up. So when you go to an interview, they will ask, do you know anything about scaling up? You cannot say, no, I don't know. You look at the whole, these are all, I just put the cover images of the recent publications, and these are all agriculture. And everybody wants, so if we have to enhance our knowledge in this particular area of scaling up. This is also important for another reason. I will just tell you, this is a very important slide. I told you in the morning that jobs are not coming where there will be an extension word will be there. So don't think that you can only apply in those positions where there is an extension specialist is being invited. All these positions, you see scientist, adoption, scaling, and innovation systems. This is the position advertised recently by CIMIT. We could have applied, many of you could have probably applied if we had a CV or an experience that matches this one. Look at the next called ILRI, scaling and partnership specialists. They are not getting people. Open until filled. Just see, because you can get breeders, you can get agronomists, you can get plant physiologists, but you are not getting, there are plenty of them. And the organization also have people, but then they need people who can do the economists also don't fit into these kind of things. Similarly, the last one, just see, international, this is an FAO position advertised, International Specialist on Agricultural Innovation and Advisory Systems. If we have learned these kind of things, broadened our understanding about extension, is now talking about rural advisory services, extension advisory services, innovation systems, we could have been, so organizations are under pressure to show evidence of impact. The CDAR, if you look at all these organizations, unless they show the evidence of impact, they are not able to get the next set of funding. So, and then how impact is possible? Only because if you don't partner, single organization cannot achieve impact. Traditionally, many of them, they were only partnering with the science organizations. We can always see, because CIMIT partnered with ICAR, state agricultural universities, we will have a partnership. But then you need to have partnerships with NGOs, partnership with the private sector, if you really wanted to show upscale. But then do we have the skills to partner? Partnership is a skill. So we can learn, yes, we can learn through theory, we can learn through cases, we can also learn through kind of a practice. That is why I talked about the importance of internship at the master's level. There was a proposal which was basically we put up in at least during the summer break, internship compulsory for the master's student, but then ICR didn't agree to that because so they wanted to make it everything look similar, whether it's an agronomy or, see, it's all different because we need a different set of exposure. And these days, many organizations will first ask you whether do you have any work experience? Do you have done any internship? If you say no, so then there are other people who have already done internship and come there. That's what I said. IRMA, Master of Social, MSWs, they have all come with internship. So whether they will take you or they will take them. So these are the questions which we need to. And now people are doing even in some cases when the organization even doesn't even wanted it to do internship. People are now asking for opportunities to do internship, voluntary. Many people come to us, or many organizations say that we don't need any funding, we don't need any salary, but can you take us as an intern and we will do work for you free. So this is the kind of a challenge which we should be, and then these are, so that's why I brought all these advertisement titles, because these are the areas where new job opportunities are there. So if you don't understand innovation, the role of extended advisory service in enabling innovation and the importance in scaling up, we have a problem. And this whole scaling up. So there's a difference between scaling out and scaling up. What normally we do through KVKs and are all scaling out. And then many times our strategy is that we will do the same project. So we did it in four villages. It was a success story. So we wanted to do it in 10 villages. Then ask additional funding to do it in the district level. Then they will say we will do it in the same thing in another district. But scaling up is about catalyzing institutional and policy change. And and as I said, because the organizations are looking for scaling up person and they are not getting it. Because people do not know how do you scale up. But then now many people are trying to fill up that area. That gap is being addressed. Because I think this is from a different project which we did. If you do the scaling out, we will be on this x-axis always. Over a period of time, we don't reach the users of knowledge. Our access doesn't go up. But when you make institutional and policy changes, so advocacy, how do we engage in policy advocacy? That is also another skill. It's also part of a broader facilitation. So policy engagement, how do you basically facilitate policy changes? And that's also an area which extension should strengthen its that whole area. Because many projects, pilots get stuck at the stage 4. Because you don't know how to, and you don't have partners who can help you with the policy. Policy is not policy research. Policy is about, to understand ways and means of generating different types of evidence that will suit the decision makers. Some might need a paper, some might need a policy brief, some might need only a field visit. Some people get convinced on, or maybe some people will get convinced when the other stakeholders demand for it. So it's not like we do a policy research, come out with a policy brief, and then say, okay, the policy is changed. So we need to understand and understand this kind of a thing. And the CGIAR again, because I'm talking about, so now they have an online, there's a course, Innovation and Scaling, an introductory online course. So you all can take this course. What stops you from, okay, now if you have a scaling up, is a unit under your course. So why should you be worried about having not enough? There's plenty of references. But then at the master's level, you should not expect that, okay, there will be an MSc, there will be a standard book will be there, we will read and write the exam. Those days have all gone. Because we are competing with other people who are basically easily catching up on many of these terms and equipping their capacity. So we should be very, very careful about these. And this is what I studied about. Actually, when IRI approached us, that they can, because they are facing this problem of scaling up. So they basically wanted their scientists to be trained on scaling up. So we organized this training with IRI and Chris on 15-16 May 2018 on scaling up. ICTs Development Center, IDC. They said they have scientists, 20 of them, engineers, physiologists, agronomists, wide variety of people. As a center together, they don't know, they know their work. They are very good scientists. They can publish a research paper. They can get it published in I think, high impact journals. But the governments which are funding them for watershed development or promoting pulses across the state, they wanted the results in terms of, they are not funding you for a research paper. So we have organized a training for the ICTs Development Center on scaling it, which we learned by review, understanding the whole kind of a topic, developing the kind of a different cases. You cannot simply train 20 different scientists and come, they will not sit like this to listen to a lecture on definitions of scaling up. You need to have practical cases on how scaling up has happened. If you don't scale up, what will happen? So they should have basically cases to think, work on, group work. So this is how we basically organize this. So I think, so this is another area which we need to. So I just basically wanted to conclude at this stage. You have the paper with you. 2 points. Advisory services can play a major role in enabling innovation, but simply saying it won't help. We need to have new perspectives on innovation and scaling up. So you should read the emerging literature, no doubt about it. We need to do more research on how innovation happens. Actually, many of our adoption studies, the problem is we look at a very short time span and with one simple, I think, replacement of a technology. Much of the technological change studies have come from a review of maybe what happens over the long span. 20 years, what changed in a particular area and how that change has really happened. And what is the contribution of technology in that one? What is the contribution of other factors in that? We recently did a study in the Mulkanur is a major woman dairy cooperative in Telangana. So I think 20 years. So Mulkanur has been considered as one of the very successful. So we did a study for ILRI, the Livestock Research Institute, to understand, and we used a different kind of a framework to look at how the technological changes happened. And we should not measure the success of adoption only by whether one technology, one variety has progressed well or not, even if may have failed. So what capacities were built by introducing different types of technologies in a particular system? So we need a long-term study. It doesn't mean we need a 20-year study. The point is we need to look at a 20 years experience to come out with a really, looking at what really happened and understand technological. And we definitely need more cases. So people like organizations like IRMA has a case bank. So they create, because you have teaching people, so you need to have to know about different cases which people could work on. So the second point is that many organizations are looking for people who understand innovation systems and scaling up. And we shouldn't miss this opportunity. As I said, other people who are our competitors, we should be very, very clear. If they are basically enhancing their capacity, then we need to make sure that we should be also doing it. Then, as I told, the new revised the curricula, I think has courses like, this is a new course, and then this whole extension landscape is a new course which we introduced because we also need to understand the extension also. We should not be only understanding maybe ICTs, mobile, gender. We also need to understand what is globally changing in extension. So that whole extension landscape is to look at extension reforms. We need to look at, so you need to understand what is extension, what is happening globally in extension. Only focusing only on your MSc or research topic will not give you a kind of a profile of understanding the whole sector. And as I said before in the morning, this is a global topic. Extension advisory services, rural advisory services, we call these days. It's a global topic. So we should be prepared ourselves. We should be preparing for that kind of a global market. So, but then only taking a course, writing and then getting an 8 OGPA, 9 OGPA, these are all immaterial. No, it's important. I'm not saying you should not study. But if you don't enhance our understanding of that particular area, I think we will be. And then it's also important for the faculty also to upgrade, because we have new curricula, new topics, because we haven't really upgraded our curricula for a long time. So that's also one of the, and then also look at this whole ESA network.org. There's a lot of resources, new resources. There are sections on resources on all different, we are also adding new topics. So all the global publications with a small commentary on. So we are also trying to identify those kind of things. We publish blogs, good practices. So I think you should also look at some of these. I was saying, actually, I wrote a mail to all these people. I basically, Dr. Ashok, I basically asking him to send me finally he got it through Dr. Karthikeyan. So I wrote a mail to all of you, like introducing, yes, I think you all got it. But I don't see anybody even say, got it. No acknowledgement. I've been sending you blogs, good practices. No, not even acknowledge, saying that earlier we used to at least acknowledge somebody sent a publication or something. And then if this is not of interest to you, what else is we are interested? Because we are not sending you happy birthday, Deepavali wishes. You get it in the Facebook, WhatsApp groups. We are not talking about professional aspects. So I sometimes wonder, what is the level of passion our students have? It's not only, I think we have been also seeing. I also want, last point I want to say, even I have seen in Facebook, when people change the profile photo, you will get 100 likes. But one of your own colleague wrote a blog. People just act as if they have not even seen it. So we also need to think about it. We are about communication, feedback. See, we are the persons who talk about always about importance of communication, importance of feedback. But then as a profession, are we providing any feedback to our own people who write any of these kind of things? Because we have an ESA Facebook group which has about 20,000 people. And people are there because they find it value. But then some people, maybe a handful of them, maybe just appreciate, or maybe it's not. We are not publishing. We are only a platform which publishes other people's work. But we have no professional kind of a. I think we need to think about it. We need to rethink. Are we doing? Because if you don't encourage your own colleagues to publish, then what is their incentive to publish? So then finally we will all pull this whole discipline. No, we will pull it down. So this is also important to provide feedback. So I think I will maybe this is my last slide and I will stop here. So I think this is the CRISP India website. You look at the ASR, then you should also look. This is a Facebook group. Facebook, that's it, no, because you should also use it. Also for personal, it's fine, but then you should also use it for professional groups. Be a member. So I think there are updates every day on what is happening globally, regionally in India. Links to workshops, links to training programs, and links to new publications. Yesterday we posted, it's a new FAO document on strengthening public extension. So it's a consultation study which was conducted from 6 countries. India is not there, but then we should all learn about what is happening globally. I think I will stop here. Thank you.
Thank you for a mind-blowing and insightful idea, sir. Well, the session is open for interaction. Members who are present both online and offline can now interact with the guest speaker.
How many people are online? How many are online? Okay. We had a session in the morning on, though I tried not to say many things today, the afternoon session in the morning, but then some of it was, we discussed some of the points.
So I think, sir, really we enjoyed your lecture. You have given a wonderful session on the enabling innovations. I have a couple of, it's not a question, kind of a clarificatory thing. So my first point is that, so we actually, as a research institute, we evolve new technologies kind of thing, and we advocate the farming community to adopt. But still, so the adoption rate of most of the technologies, particularly the water management technologies, we found that actually recently we made a rigorous and extensive research on 40 years of water management research in India. So one of the key findings is that the adoption of water management technologies is only around 10 or 12% only. So my point is that so though the state and central governments introduce different extension institutions or mechanisms or models, but still the adoption is very, very poor. So what new model we can think of to enhance the adoption rate? So that is one thing. And the second one is the institutions. Since you work on institutions, actually I have done a lot of work on the water management institutions, watershed institutions kind of thing. So most of the institutions, particularly the institutions which are formed for the natural resource management, as long as the state agency support is there, so they function. Once the state agencies withdraws their support, So the functioning, functioning is the questionable, and most of the cases, the institutions become defunct or dysfunctional. So what kind of so the institutional innovation. So that time, so we have rigorously explored the theory of induced innovation model in agriculture development by the Rattan and Hayami. So their models just we follow, but still it's the issue is remain unsettled. So what kind of innovation model we can think of to address these issues? So
Okay. So I think the first question is about, I don't think there is any kind of a universal model that will, because this is the challenge is to identify the locally relevant institutional model. So in some cases, like the research projects also, I think we have also seen like the defeat projects, they wanted people to reflect. So I think you have a technical output and there is an institutional output where they reflect on what is the kind of a process, what went wrong, what is the kind of a thing. Unless that is also an output from a research kind of a project, which people reflect. So the other mechanisms to reflect. So this is where this innovation platforms ideas are now coming up. People creating innovation platforms at different levels. So that means it is not at the end of the project, we have a review and then say that, okay, no, things haven't really worked. So we are trying to see how this kind of a participatory monitoring, all those kind of things being built into it. So, and then the answer is no universal model because these models have to be identified at the location, at the level. I think coming to the second question on sustainability, this is also an issue that is, how, my answer is that we need to learn from successful cases and try to understand why some of these organizations are really working very well and what practices which they adopt. So the research should be about learning from the successes and trying to draw lessons. This is what we did using the innovation management framework to identify if 4 cases have been very successful, maybe 100 may not have been successful. Is that something that we can learn from these 4 in terms of what people, organizations, what institutional and policy changes might have happened, and then try to develop new ways of working. So I know I'm not answering it straight, but what I wanted to focus is on the kind of the process which we need fundamental process which we need to adopt in our own research projects. Because in extension, I'm taking, because we don't look into successful project or we don't do a mega project. We do, for example, the 4 projects which we looked at globally, as I told you, because this is done for a review only. Because there is no enough person published in that particular area. So we could even do a research on the research to come out with maybe what needs to be done. Otherwise, we will end up doing the same kind of a thing, because we will have one more project. Then after that, the end of the year evaluation will also conclude that maybe from 10% it might have gone to 15%, but still. And then there is also NRM is a complex. It's not a technology substitution because it is happening at different levels for technology, institutions, policies. It is not like a one variety replacing another variety. So adoption type of models worked in simple technology substitution. But when it comes to natural resource management, we need to have a much more systems oriented kind of a frameworks. So that's what people have been trying to do in terms of social learning. So many other kind of tools, frameworks to look and understand it. I think I will maybe stop here.
Any more questions from the student side?
Or there's too much overload today? I'm challenging you on everything, and as I said before, my purpose is not to say that we are not useful. The purpose is to encourage you to look at new areas. It is not to say that don't feel that okay, we don't know anything kind of a thing. We should now think that okay, these are the areas which we should strengthen. Okay.
So we are speaking about public-private partnership and pluralism. To what extent it will be feasible at ground level, sir, at farmers level? The one-hand solution for all the farmers' problem is pluralism. How we can make it possible at field level, sir?
I think we need to split this question because what is pluralism? Pluralism is existence of multiple organizations. It is for instance, in extension, we can take as a pluralism because public-private, there are NGOs, are all those kind of things. Public-private partnerships are a different layer. So there is every reason to believe that coordinating pluralism is a major. You need a capacity to coordinate pluralistic, even extension. If you take, just not take the farmers' problem, take the extension. At the moment, our capacity to coordinate a pluralistic extension system is weak. Many people believe that the public system should coordinate. And public systems, who is there? Just take the case of a Department of Agriculture. People have reached there. Most of them, you have done a BSc Agriculture, then they worked in the field. You have become an assistant director, joint director. You just basically, they have never got any kind of a training in the last 20 years on these aspects related to what is collaboration? How do you make collaboration? Have they been exposed to different cases of collaboration? Are we allowing them to learn from many of these examples? So if you don't build this capacity within our public system or any system, the capacity to coordinate pluralism, coordinating pluralistic extension systems, public-private partnerships. So there are huge gaps in capacity. We are mostly talking, but then really when on the ground, there is very little. Even take the case of ATMA, Agriculture Technology Management Agency, which we all know. Is there a real collaboration happening? Actually, what is speaking? We did a review. This is a review which we did for the Government of India. When we looked into it, it's all the money comes, then every department distribute it. That is not the purpose for the setting up the Atma, because at the district level there is no capacity, there is no respect, seniority. There are so many issues are there. Who is basically heading it? And finally, now what is happening is that the money comes under there's a cafeteria. There is a kind of under which the money comes, and then if you're interested, so some departments are not even interested, so they don't even attend the meeting. They will think we have enough problems. Why need to take one more project and then we don't have enough people? There are many reasons. So this is a major kind of and we need to address this issue of capacity before we really start speaking about whether that can be a solution.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone. A renowned researcher grew in Ivalanmai, outshone in M. Velanmai, a good teacher, student-friendly professor, and an able administrator. With these appreciations, we are delighted to invite Dr. C. Karthikeyan, Professor and Head, Department of Agricultural Extension and Rural Sociology, TNAU, Coimbatore, to offer the vote of thanks.
Respected Director Cards, Dean Agriculture, senior professors, colleagues and students who are joined online and offline. Good evening to one and all. Before I get into this formal vote of thanks, I would like to give remarks about this lecture. So once again, I want to congratulate our speaker because he is strengthening our extension professionalism in the country, not only in the country, but entire South Asia, through organizations such as ASA, that is Agricultural Extension in South Asia, GFRAS and CRISP, Global Forum for Rural Advisory Services, and Center for Research and Innovation and Science Policy. Of course, this lecture is quite interesting. Whatever we have been exposed to this lecture is fully about the new concept, that is extension advisory services are enabling innovation. So he has started from scratch, that is what is innovation, how to enable an innovation, so which is all required by our extension graduates and the extension workers. And he has also highlighted the implications for extension and advisory services, then the capacities that is needed to enable innovation, scaling up innovation and the impact. So innovation management functions in scaling up is climate smart agriculture innovation. Then he has also given this a 5-step approach to stakeholder participation and the importance of internships to be done by the graduates in extension. Then again, he has also exposed some literatures, new literatures in extension. Almost most of the slides is highly professional, which talks about more inputs like resource materials in extension, like agriculture innovation systems, then new extensionist roles, strategies and capacities, training module on facilitation for development, putting heads together, then moving up innovations to scale, and so on. So the lecture is quite professional and very relevant and useful. Of course, it is very useful for addressing this new curricula. Already the syllabus for this PG and PhD students have been revised, and we are adopting this BSMA 2022 syllabus. And this is one of the course which is included for MSc students, enabling innovation and extension advisory services. So I think this lecture is quite useful for all the extension students and the scientists in agricultural extension. So with this small note, I will get into this formal vote of thanks. First, at the outset, I would like to sincerely thank our Vice Chancellor for starting this endowment series of lectures in all the departments, because this is a way to inculcate a scientific temper among all the scientists and students of Tamil Nadu Agriculture University. So it's a wonderful venture, and it is being done in almost all departments, and this is our turn for extension, and we are listening to this endowment lecture by Dr. Rashid SULAIMAN. So I thank our Vice Chancellor in this regard. Then I also wholeheartedly thank our Dean, School of Postgraduate Studies, Dr. Sendil, who has taken initiative to sponsor this program. And today, the Dean, School of Postgraduate Studies in charge, Dr. Venkatesa Palanisam sir, who came over here and delivered the welcome address and encouraged all the participants in this endowment lecture. I profusely thank our Director CARDS, Dr. Suresh Kumar sir, for introducing the speaker and for encouraging all the social scientists of Tamil Nadu Agriculture University, both in teaching as well as research. So he is a motivating force, and he is providing all administrative support even for the conduct of this endowment lecture, not only for this lecture, but for all our steps. He is a guiding force behind us. So I thank our Director CARDS in this regard. Then I also thank our speaker, endowment lecture speaker, who has spent the whole day since morning 10:30 to 1 o'clock in the morning. So he has motivated all our extension graduates and faculty in Coimbatore campus. And in fact, he has changed the mindset of the students who are looking for jobs. And he has motivated the students that you can provide jobs, you have to think out of box, you can work on your own, just like setting himself as an example and role. So he has given this thought-provoking lecture also today afternoon. It's quite useful and relevant, and it will be well taken. I hope the students might have enjoyed his lecture, which is quite professional. And I thank all my colleagues, Dr. Venkat Prabhu, Dr. Nirmala Devi, Dr. Asogan, and Dr. Janaki Rani, who have shouldered various committees in organizing this endowment lecture. Then I also thank all the PG students who have joined offline and online, and all the participants who have joined online for this endowment lecture, for showing their interest and enthusiasm in attending this endowment lecture. So I thank one and all for this wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone. A kind announcement: refreshment for staffs is arranged in PG Dean Office Committee downstairs, and for students outside the hall. Thank you.